For more than 3.5 centuries now, the Red Fort of Delhi has stood as the symbol of the center of power in India. Historically, the ruler of India was the one who controlled the Red Fort. The fort was known by different names at different times in history, but it was always the very basis of sovereignty of whoever ruled India.
एक आजाद मुल्क में कोई बड़े सवाल हल नहीं हो सकते जब तक कि आम जनता का उसमें पूरा हल करने में सहयोग न हो और मदद न हो.
It was the symbolism of the structure that one day after independence prompted the first Prime Minister of India to unfurl the flag of India from the ramparts of the Red Fort. He was announcing to the world that India was sovereign, and this flag on the ramparts of the Red Fort was its proof. Shahabuddin Muhammad Shah Jahan, the 5th Mughal emperor, 11 years after he came to the throne, decided to move his capital from Agra to Delhi. In 1638, he found the ideal spot along the river Yamuna and laid the foundation of a citadel that would serve as his palace and fort. 376 years later, this is the fort that Shah Jahan built. This is the Red Fort of Delhi. It took nearly 10 years to build. Completed in the 20th year of Shah Jahan's reign, the Emperor of Hindustan was away in Kabul when information reached him that his fort palace in Delhi awaited his royal entrance. In 1648, Shah Jahan arrived at the fort with a gorgeous retinue that included Prince Dara Shikoh scattering gold and silver over his father's head.
This is the historic Diwan-e-Khas. This is where Emperor Shah Jahan met his special guests. This is where his famous peacock throne was kept. That same peacock throne which Nadir Shah took away in 1739. In fact, Amir Khusro writes about this Diwan-e-Khas saying, if there is paradise on earth, it is here. It is said that silk from China and velvet from Turkey was brought for Emperor Shah Jahan and his Diwan-e-Khas.
An irregular octagon with 2 long sides on the east and west and 6 smaller ones in the north and south, 3,000 feet in length and 1,800 feet at its widest, this is the most well-known fort in India. Its iconic red walls rise 60 to 75 feet above ground level. Built under the supervision of one Mukramat Khan, Mughal records say that it cost 100 lakh rupees to build. The red sandstone and marble used for the construction came from the governors and vassal kingdoms where the material was available. A large quantity of red sandstone was also brought by boat from Fatehpur Sikri. Over the years, the fort has been known by many names. When it was built, it was called the Qila'e-Mubarak, the Fortunate Citadel. Later, it came to be known as Qila'e Shah Jahanabad. When the English took the fort from the last Mughal Emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar, it was known as Qila'e Maula, or the Exalted Fort.
For 366 years, this red sandstone has witnessed history being made in India. From Mughal India to British India to a resurgent India, it's seen a change in our military history, economic history, political history, cultural history, and now it's witnessing a resurgent India.
Over the 3.5 centuries of its existence, the Red Fort of Delhi has been witness to the ups and downs of India's political history. From the pomp and splendor and power of Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb, to the terrible days when Nadir Shah entered the Red Fort on 20th of March 1739 and occupied Shah Jahan's imperial suite. On the day he took the Red Fort, defeating the then Mughal Emperor Muhammad Shah, Nadir Shah held his darbar in the famed Diwan-e-Khas. A marble water channel Naher-e-Bashisht runs through the center of the hall of the Diwan-e-Khas. Over the arches at the south of the central chamber is the famous inscription, "If there be paradise on the face of this earth, it is this, it is this, it is this." In this same chamber, Nadir Shah received the submission of Muhammad Shah and deprived him of the most valuable treasures of his ancestors. After plundering the city and the fort, Nadir Shah left with the royal treasure that included the peacock throne and the Kohinoor diamond. Delhi was sacked again when Ahmad Shah Abdali breached the defences of the Red Fort in 1756. It is said that it was in this very same Diwan-e-Khas Emperor Shah Alam II was blinded by the Rohilla chieftain Ghulam Qadir on 10th of August 1788. This was the room where on 14th September 1803, after British troops entered Delhi, Shah Alam II, a blind old man seated under a tattered canopy, received Englishman Lord Lake and thanked him and the East India Company for delivering the tottering empire from Maratha domination. That was also the moment from when the Red Fort and whatever remained of the Mughal Empire passed under the protection of the East India Company.
1857, the first war of independence. It was in 1857 that the call for Chalo Delhi and occupy Red Fort was given. But when the British defeated Bahadur Shah Zafar, the last Mughal emperor, and banished him to Rangoon, present-day Yangon, the British occupied the symbol of Indian authority, the Red Fort. Palaces were destroyed here and military barracks like this one were created.
On 11th of May 1857, the sepoys from the mutinied regiments at Meerut arrived at the Red Fort and clamoured to be let inside. The English captain of guards ordered the gates to remain closed, but sepoys of the 38th Native Infantry under his command opened the water gate for them to enter. Captain Douglas and troops loyal to him put up a fight inside the Lahore gate but were cut down by the Meerut sepoys. For the next 5 months, the fort remained in the control of the sepoys, with Emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar declared as the sovereign ruler of all of India. But the English forces were gathering to retaliate, and the fighting continued with constant attempts at breaching the defences of the Red Fort. Finally, on 19th of September 1857, the Lahore gate was blown in and the East India Company troops charged into the Red Fort and took control. In January 1858, the last Mughal emperor was brought to trial in the same Diwan-e-Khas, where for 2 centuries his ancestors had granted audiences to the high and mighty of the land. After 40 days of trial, Bahadur Shah Zafar was found guilty of having made war on the English and sentenced to deportation for life in the very room where he once sat on his throne of Hindustan.
Ghar Firdaus barue zamiast, hamiasto, hamiasto, hamiast. If there is paradise on earth, it is here. This may have been said for Kashmir, but for Emperor Shah Jahan, that paradise on earth was right here at the Red Fort. The Red Fort is a combination of European, Mughal and Persian architecture.
When the East India Company took control of Delhi in 1857, each and every inhabitant of the city were turned out, and for some time only Hindus were allowed to return. In fact, there was a point when the English considered that the Jama Masjid outside and the entire palace inside the fort should be razed to the ground. Though better sense prevailed, many buildings surrounding the main palace were demolished to make way for the barracks of the foreign army. English records speak of a range of 500 yards around the main palace structure being swept away to make room for new structures. The historical portions of Red Fort soon fell into disuse and were not maintained for nearly half a century after that. Restoration and maintenance began again in the early years of the 20th century when the British began preparations for the Delhi Darbar of 1911. 54 years after a monarch was deported, another stood at the Red Fort when on 12th of December 1911, King George V and Queen Mary of England appeared for a darshan at a balcony of the Red Fort. In the 25 years preceding 1911, the British had spent all of 1,70,000 odd rupees on repairs and maintenance of a complex that took 100 lakh to build 250 years ago.
This Red Fort was at its magnificent best in the era of Shah Jahan. It witnessed the turbulence in the times of the last Mughal emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar. It was an eyewitness to the British atrocities, to the British military discipline, and the iron hand with which the British ruled India. This Red Fort also witnessed the long and tumultuous independence struggle.
In 1945, INA officers Major General Shah Khan, Colonel Gurbaksh Singh Dhillon and Colonel Prem Sehgal were subjected to a court-martial by the British government. The allegation against them was of waging war against King Emperor. All three had been officers in the British Indian Army before having joined the INA under Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. The INA trials at the Red Fort evoked much public sentiment, and the three accused were defended by a team of lawyers appointed by the Indian National Congress. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru was part of the team of lawyers defending the INA officers. All three were found guilty, but in view of public sentiments, their death and deportation penalties were commuted and later they were set free. When India got its freedom, Nehru wanted to pay tribute to Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, who had called for the tricolour to be raised at the Red Fort. This custom is still followed till date. The Prime Minister of India addresses the nation from the dais at the Red Fort and informs the country about the major political developments of the moment. Pandit Nehru hoisted the tricolour from the Red Fort 17 times. Lal Bahadur Shastri, as the Prime Minister, raised it twice.
कश्मीर पर हमला किया जा रहा है और मैं जानता हूं कि पाकिस्तान को उसको बढ़ाने का उसका पूरा इरादा है। तो एक सरकार के नाते हमारा क्या जवाब हो सकता है सिवाय इसके कि हम हथियारों का जवाब हथियारों से दें।
Prime Minister Indira Gandhi raised the tricolour 15 times from the Red Fort.
हर धर्म ने भाईचारा सिखाया है, प्रेम और करुणा सिखाई, और उस धार्मिक रास्ते पे अगर देश चले तो एक नया समाज हम बना सकते हैं।
Morarji Desai raised it twice. Chaudhary Charan Singh raised it only once. Rajiv Gandhi hoisted the flag 5 times from the Red Fort.
इन 40 साल में हमने तस्वीर बदल डाली। जो नींव हमारे विकास की इन 40 साल में लगाई गई, उस पर हम आज हमारा भविष्य बनाने जा रहे हैं।
Prime Minister VP Singh raised it once.
डॉक्टर भीमराव अंबेडकर किस न्याय वर्ष में एक फैसला हाल में सरकार ने लिया कि पिछड़े वर्ग को हम सरकारी नौकरियों में और पब्लिक सेक्टर में स्थान दें। सत्ता के इस ढांचे में देश के चलाने और संवारने में, उसके फैसला करने में हम हिस्सेदारी देने चाहते हैं और मजबूती से देना चाहते हैं।
And Prime Minister Narasimha Rao raised it 5 times.
बड़ी प्रगति है। जहां 2,500 करोड़ हमारे पास नहीं थे 91 में, आज 60,000 करोड़ की विदेशी मुद्रा हमारे यहाँ है, जिससे हमें किसी चीज के मंगाने में कोई आज परेशानी नहीं है, कोई कठिनाई नहीं।
H.K. Devegowda, when he was the Prime Minister, hoisted the tricolour once at the ramparts of the Red Fort. Following Devegowda, I.K. Gujral raised it once, and Atal Bihari Vajpayee, as the first BJP Prime Minister, hoisted the flag 6 years in a row. Dr. Manmohan Singh, at the helm of affairs of the UPA 1 and 2, hoisted the tricolour 10 times at the Red Fort. This practice that Nehru began has travelled the distance of 67 years from that momentous 16th of August 1947. And now it is for the 15th Prime Minister of India to take the tradition forward at the Red Fort.
For more than 3 centuries now, this Red Fort has seen India's history being made. Many say, once again, Red Fort is at the threshold of history being created. That is all that we have for you in this Headlines Today special. Many thanks for watching.